Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stories That Inspire Us. But today it's not with Janice, it's with Stormy King. And today is Friday, June 10th. Almost getting my dates mixed up. So anyways, welcome Stormy King to the Stories That Inspire Us. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Janice. I truly appreciate being here, and it's such a wonderful day. I don't know about where you are, but it's nice and sunny and bright.
As well as it is here in the Northeast. So that's good to know, because, when you get outside and feel that warmth, it's just like, if it could be like this all year long, that would be beautiful, but that is not the case. Anyways, I want to share with our audience, you are the destiny creator. You are a multi-hyphenate mindset coach who really rose from the ashes of a very traumatic childhood. But you are also an NLP practitioner, Reiki Master, Shaman Practitioner, a motivational speaker, of course, an author, and a spiritual entrepreneur. Did I include it? Did I get it all?
I think so. It's a mouthful, isn't it?
It sure is. Obviously, I want to start as we got on for the pre-podcast chat. We were chatting about how there's always a story behind the story, and yours really tugged at my heart. It really did. And as I said in the opening, you rose from the ashes of a very traumatic childhood, as often a lot of times people do. And I was wondering if we could start there and kind of work our way through that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, my childhood, we all have a story. My childhood started out being born addicted to drugs. My mother had a drug addiction issue, and quickly turned into 28 foster homes. Wow. Before I was 10 years old. So I'll just back up a little bit there. My first interaction in the foster care system, I was under a year of age. My biological mom actually took me with my bio father from the hospital and moved completely to another state in hopes that they would get to keep me, where they later ended up divorced very quickly. But that started my journey in the foster care system and started what I call the yo-yo effect of a completely broken system of entanglement of not enough services, not enough support or knowledge. And it transpired like I missed almost my entire second grade of school because I moved so many times in the system. I mean, one of the things I remember is putting every layer of clothing, like every shirt I owned, putting them all on at once and going to school. And the reason behind that was because I didn't know if they'd still be there when I got home. Because I didn't know if I was going back to the same home. So that was just like one little piece. And then that turned into behavioral problems, right? Because I learned really quickly if I didn't like the response or the answer or the place where I was, if I acted out enough, they'd move me.
So while going through such a traumatic thing as a child, that became your normal. Mm-hmm. And what I'm feeling from that is when you get into that type of situation where it's not that you were old enough to kind of know what was going on, you knew how to start. And I don't want to use the word manipulate. That's not what I mean. But okay, well, if I do this kind of an action, then I don't have to deal with what's over here.
Right. And exactly. And manipulation may be the right term, but I had such an issue with it, with attachment. And I wanted, just like any child, I wanted nothing more than to be returned to my mom, to be returned to my father. I would move and not understanding why I was being moved, just knowing that I would have to move whenever anything went wrong. So I remember at times moving in, and it wasn't just like moving within one town, moving from foster home to foster home. They would
Mhm.
move me across the state. Like they moved me from one side of Oregon to the other side of Oregon to Washington and back. So I mean, I was moved around all over. And I remember going to the library, and I would go find the yellow pages or the white pages. Remember the big, huge, thick
Yes.
phone books? And I would go through that phone book, and I would look up everybody's name that had the same last name that I could remember my mom and dad. And I would call every single one of them looking for my mom or for my dad, hoping that I would find them. Because remember, that's all I wanted. I just wanted normal. I just wanted a family. Not knowing that the reason, or understanding that part of the reason I was removed was for my own safety. My mother was addicted to drugs. She was part of a very violent motorcycle gang, where she left the motorcycle gang and joined a cult. Like there's the multifaceted things that she did that I didn't understand as a small child. All I wanted was my mom.
Right.
I didn't understand why nobody loved me. And the norm became, when I acted out, whatever that acting out behavior was at that time, often meant I got to move somewhere different.
Oh my goodness. When those different incidences were happening, excuse me, were you able, and I can imagine, obviously, like you said, moving across the state, that you, as a young girl, being in different school systems and maybe having a friend, like, oh, that must have been traumatic in and of itself, but you were dealing with traumatic was all that you knew at that point. And so it's like, how do you move forward in your life from there? Was there any time during that specific time frame where they allowed you or allowed your mother to visit with you?
There were times. So there was the carrot effect, is what I call it. If you do ABC, we will return Stormy home. And so mom would get clean, she'd get a job, I'd go home for a very short period of time until mom would get a new boyfriend. This was the yo-yo effect, that, or the carrot effect, that would happen quite often. Was as mom would get a new boyfriend, um, she often threw us kids to the wayside. And it was not uncommon for her to just drop us off a Department of Welfare and say, I can't take these kids. And the last memory I have of being at home with my mom, it was in the third grade, just getting ready to go in the fourth grade, and it was raining. And I remember riding my bike down this hill, and I had been hit by a car
Oh my
and
goodness.
actually broke my leg. But it was days before she actually took me to the hospital, because her drug use cycle had restarted, and she didn't realize how bad my injury actually was. She couldn't understand that I was actually injured and I actually had a broken leg.
Oh my goodness. That is so much for a young little girl to be going through.
And that carrot continued with my younger brother. So instead of moving us both, they removed me with the promise that my mother would get sober and all of the things, and they put all these services at the that they had available at the time to keep him in the home, and I was to be adopted out, who later came into the system, and ended up getting adopted, moved actually with his biological father, who later passed away, and he came back into the system and ended up getting adopted. But there was always the carrot, like, do this, we'll give her back to you. Do this, we'll do this. So there was no structure, no stable structure of what to be a parent, to become my own parent, to parent my own children, what it was like to have a stable, solid relationship, what it was like to have parents who cared, who actually cared. I mean, there was one time where the longest time I was allowed in one foster home was just under a year. And the only reason why they were not allowed to adopt me was because they were going to be 62 before I turned 18. And once they showed interest that they wanted to adopt me and keep me in their home, and the state said no because of your health and all of these things, then the cycle started again. I started moving around again.
Wow. And you had mentioned your brother. Do you have contact with him today?
I do, and that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. I was working as an advocate for children in foster care. I was the director of the county I lived in, and the CASA program had written a beautiful article that made it into the national news. And my little brother's wife, every now and then, would go out and go look for me on Google my name. And I woke up one morning, it's going to bring tears to my eyes. I woke up one morning to a Facebook message that said, "Hey, my husband is your half brother." And the funniest part about the whole ordeal is I am now, at this time, I'm almost 40, or I think I was about 38, so almost 40 years old. My husband had gotten out of the military. We had moved back to Oregon. I had been all over the world, had no intentions of ever going back to Oregon, but my husband actually had been from there, so we moved back to Oregon, and he only lived a few hours away from me.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
small world, so small. In our conversation and uncovering all the things and all of the stuff, they said, "Well, we actually found you about 10 years ago. You were living in Germany, but you never responded to the email." Well, I never got the email, or I thought I had never gotten the email. It was in my junk mail.
Oh my gosh.
So I have a beautiful younger brother, and then later found out that on my dad's side of the family, I had 5 other siblings. So I wasn't the oldest child.
Uh-huh.
I was actually the baby on my dad's side. And that came out. I had a girlfriend who was just an absolute blessing. One day said, "Let me just put your dad's information in this database, please." And I kept saying, "My papers say he was an only child. I know he's died. You know, you're not going to find anything." And come to find out, he was one of 6 brothers. And my father's side of the family had spent years trying to figure out where I was. My older brother, when he called my older sister and said, "You're never going to guess who I'm talking to. I'm talking to our little sister." And she said, "Oh my God, you found Stormy." And it just, like, this whole world opened up within about a year time frame. Like, I went from being basically on my own to now I'm reconnected with my younger brother, which had been my heart mission, to having this expanded family I knew nothing about. And that night when it happened, I messaged, she sent me all the stuff. She was like, well, here's all of his siblings, here's his kids, here's this. I messaged one of the girls and she called me on Facebook and she goes, I'm so sorry for putting dirt in your mouth. And I laughed. I said, what are you talking about? She goes, you were like 3 years old and we were at Uncle so and so's house. And I got in so much trouble because I tried to feed you dirt. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't remember, but there was this whole family who knew I existed and had been looking for me that I didn't know was there. And it was a really healing, and not everybody has that beautiful story of healing and closure um, when they finally find their biological family. But up to that point, I was on this search mission for my brother, just not knowing where to go, and even for my mom, and not knowing where to go at the time.
Wow, which leads me kind of to the next question. I have so many, but obviously you were involved with the foster care system, and that had obviously a lot of depth and meaning for you. Did you find that as well was therapeutic? I would imagine it would be, to work with families or children or.
It was two faceted. So initially, I wanted to be a child protective service worker.
Mhm.
That was kind of the goal, that because I wanted to help other children. And what I realized is that wasn't the space I wanted to be in. I wanted to be the advocate for the children that were in foster care. So I wanted to be the voice for the child that didn't have a voice. And it was very therapeutic in the sense of being able to help the child have a voice in the court systems, be able to be an extra set of eyes for
Mhm.
them. It at times also had its own layer of trauma.
I can't even imagine. So now you go forward in your life. Like I said at the onset, hyphenate, excuse me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, mindset coach. The big question that I have is, you over here. Now you're here.
Mm-hmm.
That, wow, like how did all that happen? Like you must have come to a point where you're like, okay, this is, I had a crappy child, very crappy, traumatic childhood, but now I'm here.
It did. It did. And there was lots of layers of things that happened. I was always on this search for more. I was trying to figure out my own identity. Who was I? Where did I belong? What was my purpose? And for a long time, my story was my victim story,
Mhm.
right? It was kind of this feel sorry for me, feel bad for me. But in reality, we all have a story. But how can I responsibly share my story to empower others to step into their own place? And that
Mhm.
path started down with, it started with therapy, it started with working in mindset, it started working with mindset coaches and mentors and jobs, and having a drive for more, and knowing I wanted more in the world, out of the world, and I wanted to impact others. I wanted to help others achieve their goals, because I truly believe it doesn't matter where we come from. If we can imagine it, we can create it and we can bring it into our world.
Wow, which is why you are the destiny creator.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add all these other things to the list of the many things that you already do: the NLP practitioner, Reiki Master, Shaman Practitioner, etc. How have those different practices for you, I would imagine, translate obviously into helping your clients? How does that all kind of work together?
Well, it all, they all started as a piece of my personal journey and in my own healing and my own resolve from searching for more of and healing myself. And as I would practice the different modalities, it became knowledge. And I realized that I my story isn't that unique. While I would love for it to be unique, but it's really common and unfortunately in the system. And I can take those tools and help others uncover their trauma, uncover, some people call it a paradigm, some people call it do the shadow work. I can guide them in that process of working through the pain and how to take the pain and responsibly show up in the world.
How to take the pain and responsibly show up in the world is that's very profound. Now, also being a motivational speaker and an author, have you shared your experiences, your journey, your
I
all of
have I have shared my journey on virtual stages. COVID has kind of shut us down, but I have shared my journey in front of Senate. I have advocated for children, shared my story in a huge room during a fundraiser, right down to I was the little girl on the back of the motorcycle, like the entire rollout. And I remember when I got done going and just really
oh,
just letting it all go. Um, and that was really healing in itself. It really was. That was really the first time I had actually verbalized. I'd written it all out. The first time I had actually verbalized it was just mind blowing. Like, wow.
it is very wow. And I think it's wow, even more so wow, that these different things that you do have shaped who you are, but have also helped your clients and helped other people that resonate with your story. As you said, that's, there's, you're not just the only one out there. And, but I do want to recognize the fact that your raw vulnerability, I can't even fathom what that release of energy when you testified, you said in front of the Senate, advocating for children, that must have been very profound on so many different levels.
It was amazing and exhausting at the same time. When I got done and got back to my hotel room, I had actually just, I slept for about 16, 17 hours, like just slept because there was so much energy, so much expansion and so much vulnerability just to share those pieces. And I was so scared and so nervous and so all of the layers of the things, the stories that we tell ourselves in our head, that when it was like this giant release. It was like, okay, now you can just go be. And that's what I did.
Wow. Now, you would also mention that you were on the search for more,
Mhm.
and that is profound as well.
Mhm.
That's led you to where we are in this time and space. What do you see as that search for more looking like for you?
Wow. So I see some very large speaking events coming up, um, and a larger impact. I My goal this year is to impact 10,000 lives
I love that.
through, um, and actually I have it right here. And it's my goal. I read it all the time. I love that I have impacted 10,000 lives this year, and I'm so excited to see them step into their purpose and create the life of their dreams. And in return, every day, I show up joyful, confident, and powerful in my service delivery.
Wow. I'm literally speechless right at this moment. Literally speechless. Stormy, we know that your story, although as you mentioned, is not unusual, but it's coming from your voice and your experiences. And the the fact that you are where you are right now, create impacting 10,000 lives, no doubt that you have already in my mind. What's next after that? I see it being so much bigger. Okay. You have
It
that
is.
statement there, right?
It is. My one of my dreams is to create or fund 300 tiny homes around North America. I have a passion for domestic violence victims and also a passion for homeless vets. And for the world, when we don't have a secure place to lay our head at night, it's really hard to find the good in tomorrow. And for a mother of children, when they don't have a space to have their children safe, and you see it all over the news, you see it all over everywhere, these mothers and these children living in their cars because the housing market, there's such a crisis, they're not able to afford it. In the Pacific Northwest, they call it the working class poor. And my own daughter experienced this. She had a job that she was working about 60 hours a week and still couldn't afford her own apartment.
Hmm.
And so I want to create a safe place. I want to create a set of communities or help fund or donate or help create this space that those who are just have lost their way a little bit can pull themselves back.
Wow. I love how you said that, to create their space. And I really firmly believe that you have already laid that foundation, no doubt. And I do see that coming to fruition. And I'm getting like chills thinking about it. I think that is amazing. A community of possibly, a lot of 300 tiny homes, to support domestic violence, people associated with that. And that's a terrible thing. And for homeless vets, that is amazing. I also see you, and I just have to throw it out there, I also see you on a big TEDx stage.
There is actually an application that I have worked on the application many times, and my own terror barrier has held me back from pushing the button. However, I manifested another opportunity to apply this year, so I will be applying for TEDx this year.
Wow, I can't wait to hear about that. You have to keep us posted and let us
Absolutely.
know when you will be on that stage. Oh my gosh, Stormy, I think your story has, in my opinion, in many respects, has only just begun. And I can't thank you enough for being here in this space today, sharing your raw vulnerability, your passion.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. And folks, Before I say that, how can people get a hold of you?
The fastest way is just to find me on Facebook under Stormy King. Um, I'm in the Tampa area. You can find me on Instagram at Influencing Destiny. I'm also on TikTok on Influencing Destiny. And my website is stormyking.com. I am in the middle of revamping it, so have a little patience with me. It won't be all shiny teal for very long. Um, but those are the fastest way, and there's always a contact me button there, or you can send me a message, DM me on Instagram, send me a message on Facebook or TikTok. I personally will respond.
That is wonderful. And I can't wait to have you on again. That is a must for sure. I want to,
Anytime, Janice.
oh my gosh, I am just so humbled that you are here today and sharing your story. That inspires me, that inspires others. You know, folks, we all have a story behind the story. Your story is no different. Stormy shared some from the depth of her soul. Her She has risen. She has rose from the ashes of a traumatic childhood. She is the destiny creator. There is a story within you. Come share your story. Please check out my website, which will be in the show notes, and leave us a voicemail, and I will definitely respond. Again, thank you so much for being here today, Stormy. Remember, you have a story that inspires others. My name is Janice, and I am the host of Stories That Inspire Us. Have a great day, everyone.